All right, we are going to do a review of the Creek and Cherokee of Georgia.
The Cherokee and Creek of Georgia. Long before Georgia was known as a colony or even a state, Native Americans lived on the land. These people used resources from nature to build their homes, make their clothing, and feed their families. We will be learning about two such groups that lived in Georgia, the Cherokee and the Creek. Both the Cherokee and the Creek lived in what is now known as the state of Georgia. The Cherokee lived on the northern border, while the Creek lived on the eastern and western borders of central Georgia. The Cherokee people lived in the northern part of Georgia near the Appalachian, Plateau, Ridge and Valley, and mountain regions of Georgia. The Creeks were descendants of the Mound Builders, which were one of the first groups of people in Georgia. The Creeks lived in the middle and southern part of Georgia, in the Piedmont and coastal plains.
I sent this to your parents and to you so that you can practice on this. And I will send your parents the answer key for this as well.
Both the Cherokee and Creek were hunters and gatherers. Deer was the main meat, along with rabbit, squirrel, and fish. Both groups planted the Three Sisters, corn, beans, and squash. They both gathered many of the same nuts, berries, and roots from the forests. Cherokee grew, hunted, fished, and gathered their own food from nature. They grew corn, beans, and squash, known as the Three Sisters. They hunted deer, bear, fish, rabbit, and they gathered from the woods berries, roots, and nuts. The Creek grew, hunted, fished, and gathered their own food from nature. They grew corn, beans, and squash, also known as the Three Sisters. They hunted deer, rabbit, fish, and turkey. They gathered berries, nuts, and roots from the forests.
Here's something else that you can print out and um, go ahead and do, or you can just look at this. There's the word box down there and figure out where those words go.
Since deer was one of the largest animals hunted by both the Cherokee and Creek people, the hide of the deer was used to make clothing such as shirts, leggings, breechcloths, dresses, and moccasins. Cherokee made their clothing and shoes from deerskin. Creek made their clothing and shoes from mostly deerskin.
Again, this is something that I can send for you guys to practice reviewing the Creek and Cherokee clothing. So now we're going to go to shelter.
Since trees and dirt were plentiful in the region, both the Cherokee and Creek used the method of wattle and daub to build their homes. To build their homes, Cherokee people wove tree branches and limbs together and then covered them with a mud mixture. This was called wattle and daub. Then they placed woven dried grass together for the roof. Woven branches covered in mud, equals wattle and daub. Thatched roof made from dried grass. Later, Cherokee began building log cabins since they were more sturdy and lasted longer in bad weather. Cherokee people lived in small villages. 30 to 60 wattle and daub homes were built around a meeting hall. The village was then enclosed by a palisade or tall fence to protect the people and crops from invading tribes or wild animals. At first, the Creek built homes in their earth, just like their ancestors, the mound builders. Later, Creek people wove tree branches and limbs together and then covered them with mud. This was called wattle and daub. Then they placed woven dry grass together for the roof. Some southern Creeks were influenced by the Seminole Indians in Florida and built chickees to allow for a cool breeze during hot summer months.
Again, this is a sheet that I can send to your parents if you'd like to do this activity. So this ends our Creek and Cherokee presentation.